Scottish Football Social Club is brought to you by McBookie.com. Take a lookie at McBookie today.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to the Scottish Football Social Club on Premier Sports in association with McBookie. For one more time in 2024, it's Monday night after all. I did have to check my days. You never know at this time of the year, but it is Monday night. So for one more time in 2024, here we go with Alan Hutton and Michael Stewart. And I think there's only one place we can start. Michael, I know you'll agree. You'll agree on this. Alan, how was it? How was Christmas Day? How were the 13? Did you deliver? Was Nico Raskan at the door? Tell us all about it.
Dad, I always deliver. Come on, you should know this by now. It was perfect, absolutely perfect. House full, nothing burnt. Everybody enjoyed it. I had a great time. Few drinks, few laughs. Absolutely perfect.
Speaking of which, a few drinks. I know, Michael, I wouldn't say where you are, okay? But I know you're enjoying yourself this time of year. You've not poured something on the side there, have you, ahead of the show?
I've not poured it yet, Darryl, but there's just lingering.
Exposure. Exposed.
It's funny, Al, isn't it? Because I'm sure just before we went live there, I saw him sipping something.
Well, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, so I'll just stay on the fence for this one.
It's only YouTube and X or whatever you call it. You can do what you want.
I'll remember for next Monday.
Yeah, get on it, mate. Get on it, Al. Michael, how was Christmas Day for you? Did you receive any presents? Did the face drop that you were sort of questioning? Because I know you're not a great receiver of gifts. You've admitted that.
Well, I guess that stage in life, Darryl, where you don't actually receive too many gifts anymore. It's all about the kids. So happy to see that they're happy and taken care of. That's pretty much the role in life now.
Tell me about it. Listen, so you've delivered. Alan's delivered as well. Rangers have not delivered this week, Alan. We'll come to that, though. Well, after all your enthusiasm in the last couple
Can we skip by it? No. Can we just...
No, we're not going to skip by it. But we will start with Celtic. Let's get right to that, Michael, because it was a convincing win against St Johnstone. Another good few days for Brendan Rodgers and his team to finish out 2024 in good fashion, good style. It looks like they're right back into their groove again. Would you agree? Ahead of the Old Firm.
Well, to be fair, they couldn't have come up against a more welcoming opponent to get back into the group, because St Johnstone really they don't know how to defend, and it was a hiding to nothing for them really. So for Celtic, perfect preparation to get themselves feeling like they've got that mojo back going into the derby. On when you talk about days, you do lose track of days. The second will be Thursday, the derby game on Thursday against Rangers. So yeah, I mean, look, big victory. They continue to stroll towards the title, and they'll be looking forward to Thursday. Even though it's obviously Ibrox, it's going to be a very interesting game, especially when you look at that defence that Rangers are potentially going to be putting out.
Yeah, it's ominous, isn't it, Al? A few players coming back at the right time as well. Nicholas Kuhn back from injury of late, scoring.
Nicholas, what a player!
Here we go.
I've always said
it is. I know, and sometimes don't always have to drive to the byline. You can just cut in and just go bang, have that. No, look, they're just at the moment. You're right. They're getting into their stride. They weren't at their fluent best in previous weeks, but here you just see they've been able to make a lot of changes, probably with a view to Thursday, and still be as strong. And then in the second half, they just go through the gears. They make the substitutions. They get more goals, and it's just you kind of feel for St Johnstone. And I run a form where they are very poor at this moment in time, and they really were going to struggle here. But Celtic are just a different animal. I mean, I think that's the sixth game in a row in the league that they've kept a clean sheet. They've only conceded 4 this season. I mean, they are unstoppable at this moment in time, and I'm starting to get that worried way again that's kind of lifting. I can just feel for Thursday, so a little bit of panic setting in.
Isn't that lovely? Stacey Devlin, she always watches as well. Nice message in for us there. Michael, there was a bit of a talk of a Celtic dip in form, but to be fair, they always seem to be able to find an extra gear when required, and they've been getting through games without many problems. Clearly, the cup final pushed all the way, but apart from that, they're getting through games domestically just fine.
I mean, look, they've got such a strong squad. You can see, obviously, I was touching on the number of changes that they made against St Johnstone in preparation for the game on Thursday. I mean, to have that level of consistency is very, very difficult. So to have a little drop-off is to be expected. But the point and the most important thing in all that is that they're not dropping many points, even when there's a so-called drop-off there. So domestically, Celtic are in complete control. There's no major concerns for Brendan Rodgers. The acid test, as we've already touched on, is obviously the European football at the moment, and they're in a pretty good position for that. And Thursday against Rangers is going to a good start to the new year for them, potentially, if they can get a victory, to ramp up towards the Champions League games that are just around the corner. They're not far away, and qualification out the league phase for Celtic will be a good success.
Mm-hmm. I was saying there, it's been almost easy street for them, Alan. I should remember Celtic did drop points against Dundee United. The Dundee United fans will be telling me that. But look, they're well clear, and the teams behind them are stumbling at the moment, which we will come to. I've been looking at some of the newspaper headlines, and there's always talk around January, isn't there, Alan, of who might come, who might go. And Cameron Carter-Vickers was linked with a move away to Leverkusen, to other teams as well. I mean, a number of teams are watching apparently, and why not? Because he's been outstanding. But it almost feels to me like he is one player Celtic could not afford to lose. Almost, I know everyone's got their price, but not unless it was just silly money.
I mean, I could drive him there. Anybody wants, if that helps out any at all. I'll take him there, no problem, for a fee. I'll help him, not a problem.
Take a wee clean 5% of the contract, Al.
Well, just as long as he's out of the picture, then that'll help. No, but like, he's been a rock for them, and when he's not there, you can see that. But I think it would have to be something substantial to get him out there. Obviously, Trusty can come in; he could play as well. Scales has done well, but you don't want to lose him, not at this period of time, unless, as we're saying, it's something ridiculous. He was a stand-in captain as well, so it shows you the character that he is and how highly thought of he is. So they won't want to lose him, but. Look, money talks at the end of the day, and Celtic are renowned for when a player gets to a certain level, they will move him on. So look, we'll wait and see, and we'll be hopeful.
I once had to drive to Germany. Did I tell you that, Michael? With Craig Burley, of all people. That was a long. It was like almost 20 hours. It was a long trip.
I felt like 100.
It did. It wasn't optional, by the way. It wasn't out of choice. It was. Do you remember the ash cloud all those years ago?
Yes, it used to come every year.
Yeah, I
thought you were about to say you were on a driving trip to Germany with Craig Levine. Now that would have taken even longer.
I wonder what it would have cost to actually get you in that car to do a trip like that, Michael. Anyway, it must have been about 18 to 20 hours, Alan. Honestly, I'll never forget it. It was for a Europa League game. It was for TV, by the way. It wasn't out of choice. But anyway, we had a good laugh for most of it. See those last 5 hours though? Painful. Absolutely painful. And if you're worried about Michael with the bottle being open, it was open a lot earlier on that trip, I can tell you. Anyway, let's get back to Celtic. Carter-Vickers, I just mentioned, Michael. I mean, he is. I mean, what would the price tag even be to try and prize him away from Celtic, given his worth?
Well, I mean, realistically, I think Celtic are in such a good financial position that you start talking about for their main assets. I would be surprised if they were entertaining anything less than 20, 25 million for these types of players. That's the position that Celtic are in. Cameron Carter-Vickers is at a great age. He's developed into a fantastic, defender. And it would probably take the likes of a Leverkusen, a big German team or a big club on the continent to prize him away from Celtic with a big transfer fee. So, I mean, for Celtic, they're in a situation where January, I just don't see them willing to do any sort of business in losing a player like that. Obviously, Matt O'Reilly went in the summer. I think they're in that situation where they will let players move on. They're not going to stop them from going to, a top European side if that's what they wish. But it'll be done when they want it to happen, which would be the summertime. They're not going to let these types of players go in the January.
Michael, do you think it's more about strengthening for Europe? Because look, the league for me is what it is. They're miles in front of everybody. It's just possibly about strengthening for that in January.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, there's been so much rumour and chat about Kieran Tierney with 6 months left in his contract. My gut is that I think Kieran Tierney would actually he'd be up for going back to Celtic.
He would, Michael.
He would be. I think he would be. Yeah, I genuinely think he would.
I know Kieran well, and I've spoken to him quite a bit down the years, and the number of times he mentions wanting to go back at some point in his career, and it just feels like the stars are aligning a bit here.
Yep. So, I mean, obviously he's not, he's a different position for Cameron Carter-Vickers, but the point in terms of strengthening the squad, could that happen in January? I wouldn't discount it. And then obviously there's a wee bit of murmur and chat about Jota again at Stade Rennes, where
you won't let this one go, will you? Jota goes back to Celtic.
I'm not alone in it, Darryl. I'm not alone in it. The new manager's come in, and he seems to be suggesting that Jota's not fully fit, but he's an important player. I mean, these types of players, for that sort of money you can potentially get them for, they're few and far between. I mean, the quality of a Kieran Tierney for a free transfer, Jota for 5-6 million quid. There are not many players that are available like that also have a connection and know what the club is all about. So, as much as you want to go and find new talent, these guys are still young and hungry. Jota, 25, 26? Kieran Tierney's 27. These are still young players that have got many, many good years ahead of them.
Greg Taylor out of contract. Of course, we'll see what happens there with Kieran Tierney if he's fit, and he is at the moment. What a signing would be for Celtic. Right, on to Rangers and to Motherwell. Alan, we should probably start on the Steelmen, shouldn't we? Because they started the game in fantastic fashion. The Rangers defending left a bit to be desired.
Not laughing.
If I don't, I would cry, to be fair. So it's just one of them. You just get through it. I knew this section was going to be difficult, so let's just get into it.
It's been a heck of a week, hasn't it? I mean, first of all, the manager as well, leaving players out, consecutive matches, key players, and it's backfired both times.
But honestly, Darryl, the defending, that first one, Proper can't even get up off the ground, and he's too interested in the handball that he can't get back in here. Defensively, Sterling can't clear the box. But can't clear the box. He heads it back into a dangerous area, knocked down to Maswanise. It's a brilliant turn, but defensively, you need to cover the goal. Send them away from the goal, not in towards it. And this for me, look, I thought Rangers were lucky because this is a goal, in my opinion. I seen it down south in the Southampton game. Ramsdale, very similar, and the goal was given. And when I initially seen this, I thought, Butland has to be stronger for me. There's a coming together. Yes, he's leaning on him slightly, but should do better. But everything that's just surrounding Rangers at the moment, the St Mirren game, he had to make 2 subs at half-time because the first half was shocking. Same here, had to make 2 subs. He's resting Czerny seemingly because his numbers are low, according to the sports science people. No, that's not what you do. You've got a huge game coming up on Thursday. Play him. If you get in front, bring him off at half-time, bring him off at 60 minutes if that's what you feel the need. That just doesn't happen. Because at the end of the day, it's Clement that's going to get sacked or lose his job over this situation. So you need to do what's best for your team at this moment in time and worry about everything else after. So they were lucky to get away with a draw, in my opinion. I know they threw everything at Motherwell towards the end, but a lot of credit has to go to Motherwell, of course, as well, that came out the blocks really sharp and got that 2-0 lead.
Stuart Kettlewell's a good manager.
No, but he is.
Yeah, they've not had the rub of the green at all. I mean, that Butland one, for instance, SFA panel, I believe, has
and then his own sending off.
I will mention that, but they've also suggested that Butland goal should have stood. So that one going through. But there was a question in from Declan there. I don't know if he's on the wind up or if it's genuine, Alan, but it's directed at you. The race for second, is it back on? I mean, look, we'll come to the Dons, but the way Rangers are playing,
I think they can. Yes. That's my honest opinion. Are they playing at their best at this moment in time? No. I think previous to the St Mirren game, I thought we were seeing shoots of life, if you want. They were keeping clean sheets. They were scoring goals. They changed their formation ever so slightly. it'll be interesting to see what happens after the Celtic game in terms of the managerial situation, what they do in January, and then we'll go from there. But I think they've got enough to hold on to second. As it sits with Aberdeen, the run that they're on, they lost again against Dundee United. Even though they did play better, and we'll come on to that, but I just feel Rangers have enough, yes, to hold on to second.
Do you know what, Darryl? I cannot feel it. I know I'll just touch on it, but I cannot for the life of me understand the thinking behind Clement's decision to rest some of the better players, the more influential players in the team. You know, because especially off the back of the St Mirren game, where they're under massive pressure. Yes, you've got this game coming up against Celtic on Thursday, but the most important game, and I know that hindsight, you know, 20/20 vision and all that sort of stuff, but these things seem so non-negotiable. You put your strongest team out when you're under pressure. It's like, just to sort of divert quickly, Hearts against Petro Cup, when Neil Critchley plays a weakened side. It's like, you're under pressure. Petro Cup, chance to qualify out of Europe and have that, you know, real carrot of European football in the new year. You don't drop some of your most influential players or rest them like Blair Spittle. You need to build momentum. And for Rangers, it's exactly the same. Vaclav Černý is one of the go-to guys as an attacking player. Egeman has made that front position his own, really. He's taken his chance.
Look at what happened when he came on.
Exactly.
Look at what happens when they both come on.
Yeah. Look at the goals.
The whole game changes.
And I know, again, I go back to hindsight is 20/20 vision, but you think to yourself, if the sports scientists are telling me they can't play 90 minutes, you go, right, my head's on the block, as Alan said, they're starting the game, and I hope that we can get ourselves in a position where after an hour, I can whip them off. And
you know what happens? Not that long ago in my situation. I can only talk from my situation. Maybe yours is the same. If you go through this Christmas period or whatever, and you've played a lot of football, I've had managers would come to you, sit you down, or your numbers are down, or whatever. How you feeling? I'm absolutely fine, Gaffer. I can deal with it. Don't worry about me. I can play through it. Right? Okay, you're starting, but we'll just keep an eye on you. If you kind of drop again, then we'll bring you off or whatever. But the Celtic game takes care of its own. Like that's over here. And it doesn't matter if you're 60% fit or whatever. If you can't get up for that game, you can't get up for any game. So these ones, as you rightly put it, are the most important. You play your strongest team, you get through them, get to there. The manager used to sit you down and ask you, how are you feeling? I'm perfect, Gaffer. Right, you're in. And that's how it goes. Sports science, yes, would have a voice. But ultimately, like you said, it's the manager's head that's on the block here.
I mean, Alan, I was just going to say, Alan, you've played under some top managers. Just can you imagine a conversation way back in the day with someone like Walter Smith ahead of massive matches? If the sports science team, if they existed back then, were to come to Walter and say Alan Hutton can't play because he looks a bit fatigued. I mean,
he would just tell him to get out. He'd say get out, and then ask Alan to come in, and then you'd sit down face to face and how you feeling? No, I feel good, Gaffer. Right, that's enough for me. Out you go and trade. That would be it. Simple as.
Callum Clark there is just making a point about Clement in the past and what happened at Monaco when it didn't go well from there and he ended up getting sacked. So you just wonder on Clement though if he feels a little bit like he's untouchable, Alan, because when he's asked the question, he seems to say, look, he's had a conversation with the board and they're totally behind him. He seems to feel that nothing's going to change because this is all part of the grand plan. It's going to take a while to happen. He seems not to feel himself like he's under pressure. Maybe he's just saying that because you've got to say that, but it does come across that way a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does when he speaks that they have this plan of getting rid of this rinse and repeat and new managers and the same cycle over and over again. And they're maybe thinking, well, we need to go through some hard times to get to those better days if you want. But it's a results business. That's him drop points in the last two games leading into a Celtic game. If that doesn't go well, the gap widens. People are only going to take this, fans are only going to take this and accept it for so long. He said in October the team would be better where he wants it to be. It quite clearly wasn't. Right, we did see it improve maybe the month later, but then it takes a dip again. So, I mean, this is his team. These are the players that he brought in. So he's going to be judged on it. and he's not going to be given that time. I'm sorry. It's unfortunate the way that it's kind of turned out, but if he doesn't turn around this period of time really quickly, then there's going to be a problem.
See, you're going to make a point, Michael?
Darryl, I was just going to say, the likes of Igaman, who's come in up top, that balance that has started to develop in that front line, it's sometimes you look at, you try to almost perfect a team and things naturally evolve. Alan spoke about this before, and I think anybody that's watched it, Igaman, he's not somebody that just sits in between the two centre halves. He drifts about. And the balance between the rest of the players, it's almost like it's evolved into actually quite a good front line. He has not played all this season. He's only come into the team the last month or so. And when you look at the fixtures ahead, he's a young player as well. And I appreciate and understand that you don't want to overload them. But when you're looking at those fixtures, St Johnstone on the 12th of January, that to me, you're going at home. That's where you pinpoint we're resting players at that game. It's the game that you look at and go, we can probably get away with resting some players there. Motherwell away is not a game that you look to and say, we can get away with resting some players there. Motherwell are a good team, and they're going to be right at you. You think, and especially the same with St Mirren. You can't rest players in St Mirren. St Mirren and Motherwell, you look at those two games prior to the Celtic game and thinking, we need to be fully on it in terms of top starting 11 team, building some momentum to go, or carrying the momentum, because they had momentum, going into it, to continue that momentum going into the Celtic game. You can't start messing about with the teams prior to that Celtic game with two tricky games away from home.
Yeah, even more surprising after the St Mirren defeat, the calamitous end to the game from a Rangers defensive point of view, then to rotate again. Not good going into the Celtic game at all. Look, we've seen the Butland goal that was disallowed. The SFA panel have suggested that should have stood. That's what they've ruled anyway. Another one we never saw there. I know there was a few talking points in the game, but you wanted to mention the tackle on Cortez, didn't you, by Lennon Miller? You thought that was red, Alan?
Yeah, I thought it was. Just... the force is there for me. Well, I don't want to see him getting sent off because I think he's a fantastic player, but unfortunately he catches Cortez right high in the ankle and he actually goes over on it. He's been out for a long period of time, just come back, first start in a while, and I thought it was a little bit reckless, to be quite honest. And I was surprised that it wasn't a red, if I'm honest.
Final one on Rangers. It's a
what do you think, Michael?
Yeah, what do you think?
I think it would be harsh, to be perfectly honest. To be perfectly honest. I mean, look, yes, I think he does catch him. I don't think there's enough force in it. And I think it gets to the stage where it feels a little bit like re-reffing the game, because I don't think many people, if any, would have thought that it was actually a booking in real time. I think most people thought...
Michael, it's high.
No, Alan, I'm not disputing that when you watch the replay. What I'm saying is...
VAR's for, Michael.
Yeah, VAR's not there to re-ref the game, though. And what I'm suggesting is that I think...
It's there to get correct decisions where possible, is it not?
Right. Just my point is, I think a yellow card suffice, because in real time, I don't think many people would have thought that it was a dangerous, forceful tackle. When you see the replay, I agree that he does follow through, but I don't think there's enough force in it to be a red card, personally. Darryl, what do you think?
There's a comment in your more there. Contact sport, never a red. You asking me?
Yes.
Look, I think it always looks worse when you have the super slow replays, quite clearly. On the replay, it didn't look good. If Cortez had been really badly injured, broken his ankle or something, I think this might be a different conversation we're having right now.
But Darryl, see somebody say
this conversation.
It's a contact sport. Yes, it is, but it doesn't mean you can tackle above the ankle and slide in and smash somebody in the ankle. That's not what it is. Contact, of course, absolutely. I mean, I was one of the worst for it at times, but if I had done that and it was VAR, it would have been a red card. It's high. I thought it was reckless. Again, I don't want to see anybody getting sent off. But what did the panel say about it?
Is VAR discriminating against you?
I don't know,
Maybe.
Al. I don't think I didn't see a ruling on that. Maybe there's one tonight. I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see.
Ali Quinn with his comment there, and that's the thing. These kind of tackles, these decisions, they do split opinion. Hence why we're here. We're still debating. Just a final one, Al, on Rangers, the defensive mess. They're missing Suter, aren't they? Balogun getting injured is a bit of a disaster as well. What are they going to do defensively against Celtic? How do they even start to set up? Because Robin Prooper at the moment, we've mentioned him before, but he's not looking like a shrewd signing.
No, not for me at all. But what can they do? I mean, really, when it comes down to it, and you look at what they have at the moment on the bench, you've got young Leon King. They're not going to throw him in just out of nowhere. So you're looking at it's going to be proper Sterling, Jeffrey or Yilmaz and Tav. I mean, that's what they're dealing with. But honestly, the two previous games that I've watched, oh my goodness, like defensively, just can't clear the lines, look nervous. I mean, it's a difficult one. The proper one's just, for me, not worked out. I was giving him the benefit of the doubt at the start. He needed time. He even said just the other week that he's still getting used to the game. Like, that's a worry for me. I mean,
see when you think about that, Alan, I know we've spoken about this, and it's like, I appreciate that there's a greater degree of physicality and the game is very quick in Scotland, right? But there's surely quick, fast players that play in the Netherlands. It's not as if you don't come up against quick players. Of course there is. And how on earth that isn't exploited in the Eredivisie, then I don't know. And I don't understand how somebody scouting Robin Prooper, knowing what is needed for Scotland, would look at it and go, he can fill the position for us perfectly. And Connor Goldson must be sitting in Cyprus going...
Well, we could ask him when he comes on. But Michael, just
we'll get him on.
Just last one, Darryl. Like, so when we were talking to Stephen Robinson after the game, I actually asked him at full time. I said, I thought in the first half, you defensively were sound, set up were brilliant, but it looked like you were playing just little dink balls just in behind the left centre half. Olasanya was breaking down that side. I said, was that something you looked at to target? And he went, yes, that's what we were trying to do. So
and I think that says all.
Exactly.
Yeah. Rangers are lucky, obviously, that Aberdeen are stumbling at the moment, Michael. Did you enjoy your visit, a little Sunday evening visit to Tannadice, which was, I know, obviously a winner at the end of the game, but regardless with the goal or not, it was actually a good watch, wasn't it, the game?
It was very much so. And, you know, I've got to say, I mean, the atmosphere was fantastic. The away support that Aberdeen brought was brilliant. The home crowd were right at it and obviously ecstatic at the end of the game as well. But I think that this game is a perfect example of where this second TV contract in Scotland is perfect. And it also blows the myth away that showing more games on the telly affects the crowd. There was almost 14,000 at Tannadice yesterday. And previously, that game wouldn't be on the telly. And as much as obviously it was 0-0 until injury time, it was still an entertaining game. These are the sorts of games that we should never have not being shown on the TV. They're some of the best games in our country. The Edinburgh derbies, Dundee derbies, Dundee United versus Aberdeen, like we had. These games should always be shown. We're the only country in the world that seems to not want to show our best games, all of them, on the TV. And thankfully, with a second TV contract, we're getting a few more of them. And as I said, I'll re-emphasise it. It blows away the myth that showing the best games on TV will affect the crowd, because it won't. Because the best games
and the later kickoff as well.
Want to go and watch it.
Yeah, some people say the later kickoffs, people don't want to go to those games quite as much. And there's another later kick. We've seen plenty in Premier Sports, haven't we, throughout the season where it's been rocking. Tannadice certainly was at the end of the game. It was incident-packed, Alan, wasn't it, in terms of opportunities, goalkeepers making saves.
Yeah, I just thought it was two teams, Dundee United, who are on good form. Walton, great save. I mean, but some of the blocks, look at Will Ferry up. And that was just happened time after time where there was saves, blocks, last-ditch tackles. It just had everything. Here, again, the referee gives the penalty. At first thought, where we were, you're thinking, it looked like it was, but when you've seen the replay, I mean, his arms aren't making him bigger. It isn't outside his silhouette, so it was always going to be overturned and the right decision, in my opinion. But just for a spectacle. I thought it had absolutely everything. And the run that Aberdeen have been on, I think they needed something, especially after Jimmy Talleen coming out in the previous game against Kilmarnock and speaking about it as if there was there was nothing within his team, no desire to go and win, couldn't win any second balls, anything like that. So they showed something there that they can actually pick up. But again, I just thought it was a game that had everything. To finish the way it did and get the crowd reaction, it was mayhem. It was mental. What an atmosphere and what a game of football.
Dundee United are just 3 points behind Aberdeen now.
That was crazy. That was crazy.
That was madness. It was mad. I mean, Darryl, we obviously spoke about this beforehand as well. As much as it was 0-0 in injury time, there was so much going on in the game. I've seen this more even since last night. What a terrible goal to lose for Aberdeen. And the slight get out that I've got for
well, it started. It started.
Dundee United for second.
You never know the run that they're on. You never know. I think
Aberdeen.
It's good for Scottish football, in my opinion, Darryl. So just let's bring it on. Everybody play at a high level, and then Scotland's going to be good, isn't it? So happy.
Not only Dundee United for second. Who's second in the form table, by the way?
Who is second in the form table?
Hibs.
Well,
4 wins in a row. We'll get there.
Depends how many games you take it back, I suppose.
Look, I said it at the 3 each game against Aberdeen. Something was brewing, and you tried to go against me. I said they'd win the Edinburgh Derby. You said I wouldn't. I did on this show. I said
nonsense.
Honestly, we'll get it clipped up. I said they would win it. You were unsure. You were on the fence. Couldn't get an answer out. Yeah. And then they've just went like that, as you said.
We'll come back to Hibs in just a moment. But Michael, just a word.
I said Hibs would win the Derby, Hutton.
Yeah. Eventually. We had to ask him about 7 or 8 times, to be fair. He picked everyone.
Exactly.
He picked the draw, a bit of Jambos. He eventually went with Hibs in the end. Anyway, listen, just before we get on to Hibs, because we'll do that in just a second, Dundee United, absolutely outstanding. We said it after the draw against Celtic. The way Jim Goodwin sets them up at times, they're so hard to beat defensively. People throw bodies in the line. They've got some attacking talent as well. It's a really good squad that's been built, Michael, hasn't it? Isn't it?
Yep. A lot of astute work being done by Jim Goodwin. And obviously the fact that he's a former Aberdeen manager as well, I would imagine that he's come away for that game with a real good feeling in terms of being able to get one over on the Dons and close the gap in that battle for the second spot. Because when you look at, I know it's tongue in cheek, but there's not a great deal between Dundee United, Aberdeen, and Rangers, and it's going to be that for me is clearly the focus and the interest for this season. Celtic are, far and away above, but can Dundee United and Aberdeen mount a challenge with Rangers to try and get that second spot? That's where the interest is going to be. And perhaps, and I mentioned this last night, if Anders Hoch Paulsen, Mr.
I heard you say this.
Yeah, Mr. Rich Dane.
What do you know? Story. Tell us, Michael. I know you've got ins in Denmark. What can you tell us?
Well, I don't know is the honest answer, but were he to get involved, now he's the richest Dane, he's the biggest private land owner in Scotland, and were he to get involved with one of the teams, apparently he has a stakeholding in Midtjylland back in Denmark, and if that's the club that's closest to his home village, if he was to get involved in Scottish football, he's a game changer, an absolute game changer. And it would be great to see the likes of a Dundee United, having that financial backing, because as much as Rangers and Celtic are the 2 biggest clubs in this country, to have genuine competition from the likes of Aberdeen, Dundee United, Hearts, and Hibs, that's what brings real excitement from the rest of the country. And Michael, could.
See, when you think about it as well, like the foundations are there. Like you think of what Jim Goodwin has done and what he's building, the recruitment that he's done. I mean, when you look at the way they set up, they've only lost like 20 goals this season. And they then had to change their formation the other day. And they looked very comfortable. So they're fluid in how they go about their formations and players coming in and out. They make changes, so the foundation's there. So if they were to get investment like that on that level, I mean, who knows what could happen?
Darren, I just saw, was it Darren Boy that sent that message there? And that's another good point, because there was a game on Friday night between Dunfermline and Falkirk.
Brilliant game.
Aye, but also it was on BBC Scotland, free to view for everybody. And look at the level of the support. Look at the crowd that was there. You know, it was. I think it was over. It was almost 9,000 folk at the game.
Were you there, Michael? Were you there?
I was indeed. Yeah. It was an entertaining game. It was chaos. But the point being that there's good support in Scotland. It's the thing that's constantly been hammered home about the greatest ratio in terms of population to the crowd support. It's there. It's clear for all to see. Show the best games on the TV. It will not affect the support. The punters still want to go to the games. You're opening it up to a greater volume of the public.
We've got to press on. You mentioned the Great Dane there. Great show, guys, says Richard Dolan. That's very nice, isn't it? Must be that time of year. People have just been nice to us. Scottish football is
they're all on the whiskey as well. I think that's it. That show's amazing.
I was just going to say, Al, the Great Dane that Michael mentioned there, and all the land this gentleman owns in Scotland. Michael can't be far behind the amount of houses he's got.
Well,
you can't even remember his name, Darryl, can you? You don't know his name.
The Great Dane.
I didn't know his name in the first place, Michael. I heard you mention him last night. I had to Google him. Right, anyway.
That's amazing.
You've already had your little jab at Michael on Hibs and the Edinburgh Derby, Al. Let's have a look at Hibs. Hibs 1, Kilmarnock 0, Michael. 4 wins in a row for David Gray. Absolutely brilliant turnaround in recent times. Kilmarnock, another red card. We'll get to that in a moment. But there's a fluency about Hibs right now, isn't there?
Yeah, because that's what happens when you start getting results. The confidence grows, and all of a sudden they start to look comfortable in this new system that they've put together. And then the likes of Triantis, who's really starting to come to the fore, performance levels are lifted. Now, I've seen a lot of people talking about this. I think even that first yellow is a little bit harsh. All he's trying to do is get his body across. Yes, he catches on. I'm not sure you need to be booking him for that. The second one is a classic case of forwards lunging in to try and block something and the defender kicks them. They're given his yellow cards, unfortunately. They are. But it does hammer home to the point about, would you look at that in VAR and say that it wasn't a yellow? I'm not sure. I'm on the fence with the second one. I've actually got more sympathy with the first, because I think all he's trying to do is get his body across him. They're two both yellow cards are sort of on the fence.
Derek said no qualms. He said no qualms about the first yellow card. I agree with him. I don't know. The second one's a joke, Al, isn't it? I know you're a defender. You probably wanted to protect yourself, but
I'll laugh. I know, but I'm laughing because I used to do it all the time. Like, see when the winger or the striker was running across you and I'm playing at fullback, you would just wait a second and just hit it up the line, wait for his foot to come across. There's going to be contact because your foot's going in that direction, and you would just go down like a ton of bricks. Literally what happened there. So the first one, I think, yes. The second one, look, I've been there a million times. I know what he's doing. I know what the defender's doing there. It wouldn't even hurt at all, really. And that's the one I feel for a little bit.
What is Danny Armstrong to do, by the way? Because if he doesn't dive
he's trying to block it. He's genuinely
deflection. Exactly. So if he doesn't know, people are criticising him, saying, "Why are you not getting in there?" Goal-scoring opportunity.
Know what he's thinking. See, as a forward-thinking player, the goal's right there. He's thinking, if I slide in here, he kicks the ball that way, I can come through. It could be a goal, could be anything. That's what he's trying. So I do feel for him in that situation. And for Kilmarnock to have their 8th red card of the season is quite incredible. But I do feel for him.
Yeah, Callum Clark saying the upturn for Hibs does coincide with the introduction of Jordan Smith in goal. There's a bit of talk of maybe Xander Clark being targeted. Jordan Smith, he has made some decent saves.
How would that go down?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Michael, how would it go down the other side of the city if Xander Clark joined? Regardless, Michael, what a brilliant few days for Hibs. an awful few days for Hearts. Let's get to the Jambos now because we've got to move on. I mean, they look as if they're cruising up in Dingwall against Ross County. A vital 3 points, you're thinking. I mean, it was absolutely necessary after the Derby defeat to respond in a good way. James Wilson's been fantastic scoring goals, a young player making an impact. But the capitulation at the end of the game, Michael, means it has been a shocking few days for Neil Critchley and Hearts.
Yeah, well, it comes away feeling like a defeat. I mean, I've got to say, first of all, Liam Boyce, I thought, for the first goal in particular, brilliant. Penrice here, what a cross that is. That's two great finishes from young James Wilson. That's another wonderful ball from Liam Boyce. Now, I know there's a wee bit of chat about this and VAR getting involved. For me, there's a difference between pulling a jersey and contact like that. Contact, and I think personally that the VAR officials, and they got that right, that the contact is initiated outside the box. It's not the pulling of a jersey that's a continuous foul into the box where you're continually trying to stop somebody going in. This is a real sore one for Hearts, obviously. I think it was the 83rd minute when Liam Boyce scores that to go 3-0 up.
He should never have been offside either.
Yeah, I know. I agree. And there's no way back from Ross County if they're 3-0 down. Sometimes you just feel like things are going in a certain direction and it's difficult to see how they're going to turn things around. And this
long ball, not dealing with this, Michael, is terrible, isn't it?
This has got the feel of it now. It's got the feel of it that how do Hearts turn this around? I don't know. I really don't know.
Michael, do you not feel though like that situation though? Like, see when you're down there and the confidence is low and it's not being great, like the conditions are terrible. Just sling it in the box and see what happens. I mean, to score 97th and 99th minute, it's like it's just dropping. Halkett tries to head the ball away, it drops down, bang, goal. Gordon, look, we don't obviously need to sit here and go through it. He'll know he should have done better, but then goal. It's just those little things happen, I feel, when you're down there and struggling.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Things feel like they're going in a certain direction and you don't know how they're going to get themselves out of it. Don Cowie said himself, look, don't overcomplicate the game. Put it into the box. And at the danger area, the conditions weren't great. I said the next 4 games till the turn of the year would determine how Hearts' season was going to be. They've won one of them against the bottom team of the league, against St Johnstone. And they've been knocked out of Europe. Simply not good enough. End of story.
What needs to change? Because you're not suggesting they're going to change the manager again at the moment, are you, Michael? Are you going?
Great question, Darryl. Great question.
So there's 2 points here. I don't think the club will, but I think that the club should. And that may well be harsh, because I think Neil Critchley comes across as a very good guy, comes across as a football person, and comes across as somebody that you would want as a coach. But there's a very different thing from being a coach to being a manager. And Hearts, and it's the exact same scenario when they got rid of Stephen Naismith. They needed a leader. They don't have that. And
does he not deserve at least
the
transfer window? He's inherited a group of players. He's obviously tried to change the style a bit. And there's a lot of talk of the new analytics and identifying players. And I know
the analytics,
players from Union Saint-Gilloise. But Michael, does he not deserve the window?
So, but the analytics threw up Neil Critchley as the manager. And with the greatest respect, what is it in Neil Critchley's managerial record that would suggest that he was the man for Hearts? I mean, just pure, simple looking at the data of his managerial career would not suggest to you that he's the man to take over Hearts. And one of the things that was put forward was that he's a good developer of players. So that shouldn't be determined on a transfer window. That should be the
but that takes time.
There.
That takes a long period of time to develop players.
Quality, there is quality in the squad. But I go back to the fundamentals here. This board at Hearts have not got a good track record when it comes to managerial appointments. This is a left field appointment, another one. Cathro was a left field appointment, disaster. Stendhal was a left field appointment, disaster. And now Neil Critchley, a left field appointment. The fans become tired of it. They just want a leader. They need a manager. And Hearts, 4 games to the turn of the year, they are not in a good position. They're not in a good place. Neil Critchley's had 17 games in charge. 17 games. He's won 5, right? If you discount the first 2, now some could argue that's highly speculative in terms of discounting them, because those 2 games were his best 2 games. St Mirren and Ammonia. So in the last 15 games, they've won 3 games. And
he
two
did
of them,
take over a team. He did take over a team that was struggling. Richard Dolan point there about giving him a transfer window. I understand there's a lot of quality there, Michael, but is it not early?
Games.
Look at David Gray and Hibs. There's a lot of people saying he should go. You get a bit of time. Sometimes it can work.
15 games, they've won 3, and 2 of them are against St Johnstone, who are bottom of the table. This squad, you're missing the point I'm trying to make here in terms of there is quality in the squad. It's imbalanced, but they need galvanised. And I don't think Neil Critchley's
They have a leader. They need somebody to come in with a presence, be a leader, get the best out of them. But I would love to see how it all works and how they look at the data to actually sit and pick somebody out and then go through the players. Because I take it if they did give them the transfer window, this would be in play then. So if he was to then leave, whoever comes in, it's like, this is your players. Not a case of I want him, and him. So I presume, is that how they're going to work it moving forward?
Well, the analytics identify them first of all, and clearly there's going to be a link-up, isn't there, with teams like Union Sancho, as you would imagine, that even early speculation ahead of this transfer window. But in the end, the manager surely has a say. Go on, Michael.
Who's in charge of Hearts? Who runs the club? Because my fear is that this board, who I'm highly sceptical about their football acumen, I genuinely believe they're almost abdicating the responsibility of making decisions to an algorithm. And that's dangerous.
Well, the opportunity was also presented to them, Michael, wasn't it, by Tony Bloom? So, and with investment potentially to come. So, and it is a great opportunity for Hearts. But anyway, look, let's see how it plays out. We've got one final game to get into. St Mirren 1, Dundee 2, which was sort of form flipped in its head, if you want, after the games on Boxing Day when St Mirren beat Rangers and Dundee were well beaten by Ross County. So tables turned a bit here, Al.
Yeah, well, I think Dundee have struggled before this game. I think they lost the previous 3 and hadn't scored a goal. So it was something they probably looked at thinking St Mirren had a really tough game against Rangers, and they did look a bit leggy towards the end, but look, there was some good goals. Simon Murray always makes me smile when I see him score a goal, how mental he goes. So
he loves it, doesn't he?
It's funny, just he looks so angry all the time, but happy at the same moment. It's just strange, but there again, lovely ball in, and you know that he's going to get in the end of things. Look, he just absolutely loves it. But St Mirren obviously do well to get back in the game, but I just felt the longer maybe the game went on, Olasanya scoring again. I think he's on 8 or something now for the season, so they've always got an opportunity with him. But both goals come from like the second phase of set plays, and Murray, he feeds off things like that, and he just absolutely launches himself at it, and yet again running away, like looking angry and happy at the same time. So look, a great win for Dundee United. They needed it. Well, look, St Mirren have done really well. They've been on a good run of form, so look, they're doing well at the moment.
Hearts, that's twice in 2 days.
Dundee, I wasn't going to say he's chucked in a Dundee United. What he was thinking, though, I know, Michael, right? He was thinking that was a good win for Dundee ahead of facing Dundee United in the derby.
That's what it was.
That's what he was thinking.
That's exactly what it was.
And Tony Dock has said, hasn't he, that Dundee deserve, they owe their home fans a good performance after the defeat against Ross County. But I'm really looking forward to the Dundee derby. It's a fixture, in fact, that's been brilliant down the years when we've covered it in the past.
And I couldn't get it wrong.
And they're going to play again in the Scottish Cup on Premier Sports, aren't they, in January? So it's going to be a brilliant few weeks ahead. How do you see this Dundee derby playing out, Michael, at Dens?
Interesting. I mean, look, I have the sense and feeling that Dundee are just on the cusp of kicking on. You feel like they're finding a wee rhythm and a bit of form, and then they get a couple of bad results, whereas Dundee United, it just feels like they have that bit between their teeth at the moment. I would either see Dundee United, being able to pick up the 3 points, or it would be a draw. Personally, I know it's at Dens, but I see the.
I want to just pick one again, so we can pull you up next week when you're wrong.
Yeah. Look, I've done that.
Just say a team. Just say a team. I'll go Dundee United. I'll go Dundee United.
I've picked it, and I wasn't wrong last week. I was spot on.
Eventually.
Anyway, listen, you've got to love it.
We've reached 50 minutes, Al, and I know apparently you've got 16 coming round, haven't you? On New Year's Eve that you've got to cater for.
Possibly, it's normally the next day. It's normally the first. It's a big day.
Yeah. First, a write-off for Michael. Actually, the 31st might be if he continues on that whiskey trail he's on right now. But Michael, that's the Social Club 2024, our new show. Have you enjoyed it so far?
Absolutely. Brilliant. Enjoyed it very much so. Talking nonsense with you on a Monday night.
Oh, absolutely love it. And obviously weeks going forward just need to be more social, and we'll all join in with the drinks and stuff. So yeah,
why not?
Looking forward to the weeks coming.
It does go out in Premier Sports as well, by the way. Not live, but I think you can do anything. So let's do that.
I think it'd be very open and honest. I think.
Yeah. We'll be very open and honest. Just like that SFA panel, we'll be very open and honest going into 2025. Alan, Michael, thank you very much. Enjoyed your company as always. We'll see you in 2025.
Cheers, everybody.
A very happy new year. We'll see you in 2025. Bye for now.
The Scottish Football Social Club is brought to you by McBookie.com. Take a lookie at McBookie today.